It looks like XRP ETF day is finally here, and in this video, I want to cover exactly when these things are going to go live and what it's going to do for the price of XRP. A lot of people are under a lot of different expectations for what is going to happen when the institutional demand finally hits XRP from these ETFs. And in this video, I want to cover exactly what you should be expecting and what I think the end result's going to be. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if any of you need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange uphold down in the description of this video. That said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So let's jump right into the XRP ETF news, because it does look like we are going to have a major XRP ETF going live, and a lot sooner than I think people initially thought. We take a look at this recent post by Eleanor Terrett. It looks like the Canary funds will have their XRP ETF going live effective tomorrow at 5:30. Now, this is super exciting because Canary is the first large ETF filer to get an XRP ETF over the finish line. And guys, it looks like it's not going to stop there. There are plenty of other XRP ETFs that are right at the finish line right now. We take a look at who else is pretty much right around the corner. We can see that we have 21 shares, Pro shares, Bitwise. We have also Coin shares. We also have Volatility shares, Franklin Templeton. And these are just the ones that are really right around the corner from being ready. My understanding is that there's about 18 we're probably expected to see before the end of the year. Canary going live is going to push a lot of these people to hurry up. Essentially, all of these smaller, right? These are major people, but not as major as a BlackRock. All of these people are fighting to get as much AUM in the door as quickly as possible, because they understand when BlackRock shows up and when Fidelity show up, it's going to change this entire thing. Essentially, those are going to be the ETFs that attract most of the AUM. So these guys are incentivized as possible to get these things up and running as quickly as possible and get as much XRP into them as quickly as they possibly can. They're all in a race. And this is going to create a snowball effect, because essentially every single one of them is going to be bidding the retail and institutional market, trying to get as much dollars into XRP that is not exposed to XRP yet as soon as possible. We have about 11 of these things ready to go, and we should have some major ones following up pretty quickly. People keep on asking me, when is BlackRock going to step in? In my opinion, it's all going to depend on how well these ETFs do. If these ETFs blow out of the water expectations, BlackRock is going to be there very quickly. If these things are moving a bit slower and we're not sure exactly how quickly they're going to get up and running, really with real institutional volume, it might take a tad bit longer for BlackRock to step in the ring. At the end of the day, BlackRock is really just making a decision on how late they plan on being to this party. BlackRock, I can tell you right now, has a roadmap with XRP on it for an ETF. But whether or not that roadmap extends to the end of next year or it's going to happen in the next quarter is going to depend on the demand for these ETFs right here. BlackRock wasn't the first company to file a Bitcoin ETF, but I think they realized that there was going to be a lot of demand there. I think there's more questions on things like these XRP ETFs. So it's going to be really interesting to see how quickly BlackRock steps into the ring, and that's going to be highly dependent on the initial volume we see from these things. I also just want to give a shout out to Bitwise. They claimed the ticker XRP for the XRP ETF, and in my opinion, that's absolutely genius. I think a lot of people are just going to type in XRP into their brokerage and pick XRP as the ticker over some of these, like 21 shares is TOXR. This other one is like XRPK, XRPZ. You know, like I would just pick XRP if I was an uninformed investor. So just something to be aware of, just something to call out there. I think Bitwise made a smart decision making the ticker XRP. I want to keep going though and talk about sort of my thoughts for what these XRP ETFs are going to do. It's so important to understand market mechanics when we have this conversation. I see so many people get this wrong. They say the XRP ETFs are here, boom, instant, this is going to happen. Do you think this is going to happen the day they go live? It's so important to understand how markets work. Things will happen when you least expect it. That's how markets work. That's what I put out earlier today. What do I mean by this? At the end of the day, the market needs to be surprised by news in order for it to really react to that news. If the market right now, and we don't have any official number, the market's really a weighing machine, right? It's what is the populace thinking? What is the overall sentiment? If the market is expecting these things to do 10 million in volume and they do 10 million in volume, personally, I don't think it's going to have really any impact at all on XRP's price. If these things go live and the market's expecting 10 million and they do 100 million, I think it's going to have a huge impact on XRP's price. But I think the long-term effect of these ETFs will be seen with time rather than on any one individual day. And that's because, in my opinion, a lot of these institutions are probably front-running some of this demand. They're working with Ripple to purchase XRP. Some of this stuff might be happening OTC. I don't think it's going to be on this day, the market starts appreciating massively. It was the same thing with the Bitcoin ETFs. The Bitcoin ETFs went live, they were doing record volume, and the market wasn't really moving. And everyone was like, what the heck? There's volumes here, it's suppressed. That's not it. It's just the fact that if the market knows it's coming, the market's not going to really react all at one point. It takes long term for these supply and demand imbalances really to affect the price. And I'm not talking about multiple years, but I'm talking about multiple weeks and months in order for this demand to really start hitting the spot market. And I do think we are going to see a massive amount of institutional interest in the XRP ETFs. I think the upside of what we see in terms of volume is going to surprise the market. I think long term, this is going to have a huge impact on XRP's price. But there are some things in the short term that might derail that from happening. And I want to talk about those things real quick. One of the most important things we're watching right now is actually this downtrend we're in on XRP right now. XRP has been unable to break this downtrend thus far. We need to break this downtrend in order for XRP to start appreciating to the upside. Tomorrow, there is going to be a vote to reopen the government. That, in my opinion, is going to be one of the most important things for this XRP ETF to get priced in from a positive standpoint. If the market is freaking out about the government for the next 2 months, it's not going to pay attention to an XRP ETF. If we get the government back open, everyone's happy again, everyone's talking about how things are moving in the right direction, people are going to feel very bullish about this XRP ETF getting over the finish line. But it is clear that the driving narrative in the market right now is not crypto ETFs. Everyone's focused on the government shutdown. The market hates uncertainty, and government shutdown is a huge amount of uncertainty, as stupid and as silly as it is, in my opinion. I keep on saying the government's going to be reopened, but the market wants to throw a fit about it in the short term. This is like a child, right? You can think it's dumb that your child is crying all the way to his room when he gets put in a 10-minute timeout because you knew the result of what he did was going to give him a timeout, and he knows he'll be out of the timeout in 10 minutes. But it doesn't change the reaction, right? The reaction is still something that is going to have to be dealt with. And that is what the market is doing with this government shutdown. Everyone knows it's going to end. Everyone knows it's going to have virtually no impact on the economy. Everyone knows, for all intents and purposes, the government's still up and running. They're just deciding not to do certain things, and it's going to end. But the market's going to freak out about it until it's over. Why the market does that, I have no idea. But one of the most important things about being an investor is meeting the market where it's at. You cannot expect the market to react the way you want the market to react. If you try to superimpose your own will onto the market, you'll only be left disappointed. When you look at the market in the short term, you need to understand it's very emotional. In the short term, the market is going to throw a fit. It's going to cry. It's going to get overexcited about certain things. But over the long-term fundamentals carry price appreciation. The short term is just noise. Those little spikes one direction or another don't mean anything. That's just the market's mood swings. Over the long run, though, those mood swings don't matter. So try not to get too caught up in all of that in the first couple days of these ETFs. I know a lot of people are going to hyperanalyze what XRP's price is doing in the short term. Over the long run, this is going to be outstandingly bullish, but there needs to be a good macro environment and there needs to be substantial volume coming in for these catalysts to really have a significant positive impact. Guys, with that said, I hope everyone has a great night. Looking forward to tomorrow. And for now, Mickle out.